Well, you have heard the advert, and we are talking with SANZAF right now. We've got standing by the National Chairperson, Fayruz Mohamed, with us, and this is with regards to the Pre-Ramadan Ladies Zakah Seminar. Now, during the week, we've seen the celebration of the International Day of Women, celebrating women and what women have achieved. And Zakah being an important institution, an important pillar of Islam, and looking at the role that women actually play, and they need to be empowered, they need to be informed, they need to be educated about zakah, because especially in today's day and age, in today's economic climate, zakah has got it's got a massive role to actually play to address the social and the socio-economic challenges that we as a Muslim ummah are faced with. And more importantly, looking at women, in many instances we see that women are on the receiving end of a lot of these challenges. And this is the reason why we are talking to Sister Fayruz Mohammed. Sister Fayruz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Jummah Mubarak, and wonderful that you're able to join us.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Inayat. Jazakallah khairan. Jummah Mubarak to you and to all your listeners. And shukran for having me on your program today.
Well, the other day I had the opportunity of speaking to Yasmina, and I felt that we didn't do justice. This is such a huge topic; it's a massive topic, and we can't do justice in a matter of a few minutes. And for the reasons that I had actually mentioned in my introduction, there's just so much to uncover, to unpack, and more importantly, looking at our sisters, looking at our mothers, and to empower them with and equip them with the necessary knowledge, information, and for them to be empowered in more ways than one.
Absolutely. And I think it's become more very relevant, especially in today's society, for women to educate and empower themselves with, knowledge that they need to eventually, transfer to their offspring and be reminders to families, because we are, advisors, we are nurses, we doctors, we so many things, to our families, that we are always, the first point of call when it comes to educating our families. And that is why it's so important for women to, to upskill themselves, to inquire and empower themselves with certain knowledge, to be able to, transfer that to our families and to our children more so. Because, the one topic that we always tend to not, I wouldn't say study, but less, not get as educated on, in terms of the pillars of Islam. If people going on Hajj, which the list has been out and everybody's now been informed who's going, inshallah, they've done some education on it, whether it's been for 3 years, they go on a course, etc. But we don't, apply that same kind of knowledge to the third pillar of Islam, which is zakah. And that is why, we have these zakah advocacy programs throughout the country, but specifically, for women, where we are educated by women, to, share that information and to just guide them as to, the importance of zakah, the fiqh and maqasid of zakah, who they can distribute to, and some framework and basis, of calculation. And we've collaborated with, in fact, yesterday we had one in Pretoria with the Pretoria Muslim Women United group. And alhamdulillah, it was attended so well, and there was so much engagement that alhamdulillah, the women left there feeling empowered that they can now share this information with their families. And that, at the end of the day, is, the objective of why we're having these workshops, is to share and educate, and even inspire women. So inshallah, we intend to do that. Today is Friday, so tomorrow, inshallah, with the Greenside Muslim Women's Group in Emiratia.
Well, I'm sure, Sister Fayruz, that each seminar and the different levels of engagement that you hold with the women during the course of the seminar, and also in other forms of engagement, there's a huge learning curve, and there is so much that for yourself, there's so much benefit, there's so much value that you can actually add to yourself and to an organization like SANZAF, because like you mentioned, it is a pillar of Islam. but more importantly, to get a good understanding. And I'm sure you've done a lot of research on this topic as well as to what some of the key issues are. Now, what would some of those issues be that actually come out in your levels of engagement?
Absolutely, Brother Inayat. And you're speaking about in terms of, we've done the research, we've done the education, etc. And SANZAF's been around for, I always have to think how old I am, for almost 49 years, inshallah. And, Zakah advocacy has always been one of our sentiments and mandates in terms of what we do, besides just the collection and distribution. So we've obviously collated quite a few and lots of frequently asked questions. So in fact, I've never come across usually questions that people ask that we haven't really covered. So alhamdulillah, the sharing of the knowledge, and like you said, we also learn from questions that people may have, that a scenario we've never actually come across. So we then may have to investigate and do the research, etc. But the knowledge sharing between the women, alhamdulillah, and the questions that they ask are so relevant and so practical in terms of their daily lives, that we also realize that many people actually don't, understand what zakah actually is. That we need to re-emphasize that it's not just, shouldn't be seen as a tax, because many people actually think, that it's similar to a tax that you pay. We try and emphasize very much around the spiritual aspect in terms of, paying your zakah, because it's two elements. It's the spiritual aspect and it actually is the calculation. And both is as important, because, we have that spiritual definition of exactly what zakah does, to yourself as the donor, to the recipient, etc. But sometimes we don't actually get to understand how to do the calculation. And if you don't, paying the correct amount, then your zakah may actually not be completely fulfilled, which means you still have an obligation of where within your wealth that doesn't belong to you. Because technically, there are 8 prescribed or ordained individuals that are allowed to receive, some wealth that you have. And there are reasons as to why, you need to distribute that health. It's, the gratitude that you show to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that ultimately all wealth belongs to Him. So the sharing of, between Muslims, the emphasis of, taking care of one another, etc. And yeah, so the aspects that they learn from, like I mentioned, is, why it's important. We cover the objectives of zakah. We cover, the distribution, because it's very important that you actually know who you can distribute to. Many questions we get is around, can I give to my certain family members, my parents or my brothers, etc. And when you actually get to understand who can receive and who cannot receive, it actually makes logical sense that you cannot give to family members that you are supposed to take care of financially, like your parents or your grandparents or great-grandparents, and so likely not to your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren. You are meant to take care of them, so why give them your zakah? Give them of your sadaqah, take care of them like you're supposed to. And then you can then obviously give to anybody beyond that. And obviously your wife is somebody that you're supposed to take care of, so she obviously cannot receive your zakah. But your siblings, your aunts, your nieces and uncles, they can all receive your zakah as long as they're eligible to receive zakah. So many of us, Brother Inaya, think that, we can, do our own thing, we can just distribute. And it's actually encouraged for you to distribute your zakah to, start with family first, neighbors, extended people that you know, before handing it over to an organization, because then there would be a direct link to someone that you know that is in need. So yeah, so those are basically, I can talk about this topic for a very long time, because we're really
I
passionate
know.
about it. So
No,
you
I
must
can
stop
see
me when I'm talking too much.
No, I can see the passion. I can hear the passion. But yes, Fayruz, sometimes it's not only about the technical aspect and the spiritual aspect. These are important issues and processes, procedures that people need to follow. They need to know the technical know-how in terms of calculations, but also in terms of the reach of the zakat, who it goes to. You mentioned a few, but also, looking at the impact that zakat makes on the well-being of society, on the well being of families, on the well being of the ummah at large. And, this is important for people to actually understand how this institution of zakah is focused towards the well-being of a greater ummah.
Absolutely. And, if you look at the objectives or what maqasid of zakah is the redistribution of wealth, but a fundamental objective of zakah, which I sometimes think people tend to, I wouldn't say put aside, but they tend to forget that the objective of zakah is to transform someone to a different condition than what they're currently in. So with SANZAF, our approach is we see to the existing and current need of that individual, which may be welfare and usually ease. So, an immediate sense of, giving some relief. However, that's not the ultimate objective of zakah. The ultimate objective is for that person to, get out of that condition. And the way we do that is through upskilling, education, giving them, and we normally say, the quote that usually go, don't give somebody a fish, teach them to fish. So that's how you can actually do that, because the objective is to make them self-sustainable at the end of the day, to a point where they would actually become a zakah payer. So we see many, unfortunately, organizations, popping up, especially in the month of Ramadan, and, just seeing too many handouts, etc. There's, lots of duplication that happens. And at the end of the day, the people become perpetual, giving them just perpetual handouts. And that's not what zakah is meant to do. It's meant to ensure that you change and transform that person and that family to a different state, to a different condition, where they wouldn't, continue to come to an organization and ask for a handout. So we try and, educate the community on, using zakah as a developmental tool, as opposed to just as a welfare tool, which should basically just a band-aid, on a broken bone. So we try and, have those various skills and development programs, etc., within the organization. And obviously, you may know of a bursary program, which is a huge, program within the organization, where we, try and facilitate the education, tertiary education of numerous students, to upskill them, educate them, so that they may change the condition of, their family dynamics.
Exactly. Well, I've seen so much actually on your annual reports, and all of it is detailed, and it's very encouraging. It's inspiring to actually read what is contained in your annual report. So, Alhamdulillah, SANZAF has been doing a wonderful job. Now, just looking at the Greenside event, what can be expected?
So, inshallah, the Greenside event is meant to happen tomorrow at 10:30, inshallah. So it is a ladies only program. So we, like I said, we'll cover some of the fundamental frameworks around the basis of the calculation, the importance of why the institution of zakah exists, the objectives of zakah. And we cover, which I think is actually very important, which actually takes a lot of time, is the most frequently asked questions. And here we cover around any most common questions that we usually get. And we've collated this. I do a Zakah in Focus Q&A for the last 8 years. And alhamdulillah, through that program, we've collated so many frequently asked questions that we already know, or we can foresee what the questions, our communities are going to ask. And we just encourage, all the women to come out and, sit in and educate themselves. I obviously would look at, the audience that we have and the level of technical aspects I will cover. So if it's something that I just basically want them to understand the principle, or just to understand that, you may be liable to pay zakah, you may not need to know how to pay zakah or do the actual calculation, which is fine, because we have, individuals can just go to or just call. We have the Ask Molana button on our website. So if they have any questions and they cannot come to the program tomorrow, then inshallah they can use, that platform, or they can email me, or anybody, within the organization that, that usually does these zakah advocacy programs, and we'll be able to, inshallah, answer their questions in a, more in a private session, as opposed to, in an open forum. But yeah, so it's basically just to encourage the women to come and educate yourselves on this very important topic. We are the very first educators of, our communities, our children, our families. So we need to understand just the basics of zakah, so that, we fulfill our obligation on this third pillar. and ensure that we actually do these things correctly to be able to, at the end of the day, whatever we do is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Well, inshallah, we trust and hope that all goes well, Sister Fayruz. I see it's taking place tomorrow, the 12th of March, time 10:30 to 12:30. Venue will be Masjid Rahma basement in Ingele Road, Emerensha, and that's in the Greenside area. Sister Fayruz, Jazakallah for that and for your time, as always, with us here on Salam Media. We wish you and the SANZAF team well, inshallah, and Allah accept, Allah reward your efforts. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ameen ya Rab. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, we're going to go for a quick break. We come back. We will be joined by Maulana Tahir Sallu. We are talking with the Forthwork Muslim Youth Organization.